Here he goes.
Go.
Good?
That's a big fish.
Full hand on tail. Yeah, looks sick. Good deal.
Look how broad that thing is.
I wonder if that was the one that followed me in.
Beautiful. Oh my. That's a big
That's a
fish.
big fish, dude.
Shrimp.
This would have been waiting for all day.
That's over 6.
Felt that bite.
Damn, I think low and slow is the way to go, eh, baby?
First big of the year on.
The thing I'm about to tie on.
Get him, get him.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Calm down. Come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here.
Yeah, dude!
Dude.
Pounds, 11 ounces.
Oh my god, please get the net. Please, 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 please get the net.
I got you, buddy. Oh my god. I got you.
That was the weirdest bite ever. Oop. That was a good one? Yep.
Sure, feels like it.
Sure is.
I can't turn her head, bud. Holy shit. What the? Is that another 6?
Could be.
The second giant of the day, proving that point. Oh my god! Oh my god! Yes! Big baits, big fish. There we go, 5 pounds, 6 ounces. Beauty! Let's go. Got him. Get in here, you. There's another 6. You. That's a big fish.
6'10". Woo-hoo-hoo. Little fatty.
Oh my god.
If I can land this fish.
Holy sh! 5.06. Sick. Oh my god. Oh my god. Holy sh! God. What a beast. Dude, that's it, that's it. I'm 4 pounds smaller. I need a picture. Sorry.
Oh wow. That might be a 4. That might be a 4.
Yeah, it's a 4. You guys show that off too. 4 pounds, 12 ounces. Holy. Trailers, what's getting it done. Yeah?
Yeah.
Dude, that's unbelievable. That's a 4.
He's still swimming.
There we go. That's a big fish. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes! 414 though. Gee. Not too shabby.
Add, remove, add. Evening, everybody. How are you all doing on this fine post-Christmas evening?
Good morning.
Hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas and a happy holidays, and we're about to ring in the new year, the whole 9 yards. Hope some of you got exactly what you wanted for Christmas. And on top of that, for those anglers who are still out there getting on it, hopefully you had a great weekend this weekend. But without further ado, let us introduce our guest. We're joined tonight by Elite Series angler Jonathan Kelley.
Hi, John.
What's going on, guys? How's it going?
So actually, Andrew knows John better than I do because John is sponsored by New Hampshire-based Bass Fishing Electronics. Andrew did not silencio his phone. No,
My sister.
she's probably at that. You should just answer and just be like, "Look what you're interrupting."
Nope. Okay.
This is a first.
Hello.
I guarantee you she's at that dive bar. Nope, she's gone.
She is.
All right, anyway. So anyway, you know John better than I do, obviously, because I just started talking to him, although we were friends on Facebook and Instagram, the whole 9 yards. But yeah, you know him because you work at Bass Fishing Electronics, and he's sponsored by Bass Fishing
Yep.
Electronics.
And we just finished rigging his boat. What was it? 2 weeks ago? 2 or 3
No,
weeks
not
ago?
even that long. Just about a week ago.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
time flies. Or it doesn't fly.
A little over a week ago, yeah. It flies by. We got it knocked out and it's ready to go.
Yep.
Incredible build. Haven't really told many people about it. Haven't showed a whole lot off yet. Kind of just waiting for everything to get done and finalized for the season. And then I can show it off and let everyone kind of see everything that's involved, firsthand. Hopefully they'll be calling Bass Fish Electronics wanting theirs done as well, just like it.
Yeah. Oh, that we did a lot of work in a short amount of time on that thing, trying to get you out as soon as possible, and glad it came out
but
good.
it did. I mean, every time I come up there, we get in there, we get it done right, clean, professional, and this one's the best one that I've ever had. With all the advancements we have in technology nowadays, and the sponsors, the support, everyone that helped go into this boat really made it truly incredible. Better than any boat I've ever had. Everything that goes into it. So I'm excited about it, and I'm really looking forward to getting to show everyone what's on it. And I don't go too crazy like some guys are with like the crazy amounts of forward facing sonars. I think I saw one boat in a post the other day had like 4 or 5 or 6 on it. That's a little over the
believe
top
it.
for me. So I like mine the way it is. I think it's definitely something special, but it's nothing like crazy like some of them you're starting to see.
It's a clean build, for sure.
Yep. Got everything I believe I need to utilize no matter where I go all season long.
Good.
Hell yeah, man.
Good.
Oh, there we go. Okay. I just saw a comment. You are still a little quiet, but I can fix that on my end. Sorted. All right. So are you going to, you can at least tell people what you've got for a hull though, because you didn't change from what you had last year, if memory serves correct.
Yeah, I run a Ranger. I've been running a Ranger for, I want to say about 8 or 9 years now. Might even be longer than that, but this will be my second year in the 520R. An incredible boat. Definitely one of the best models that Ranger has ever built. So looking forward to running that again. It's a very well built boat. It handles the water great. And it's, a pretty quick boat for a Ranger. So, I know Steve at Bassfish Show Electronics is getting one as well. So it's definitely a boat that not only catches the eye, but it's a good boat to be on anywhere you are fishing.
Yep. I forgot that Steve was getting that too. This is going to be his 4th different brand in 4 years. wait.
Yeah, he's bougie.
He went to Skeeter, was the FXR 21, and then he went to the Phoenix 921 Elite, and then last year he did the Camus CX 21. So this year's going to Ranger Z5 21R?
20R.
Oh, he's going down? Wow. I'm actually surprised.
Yeah, the fast one.
Honestly, I used to have a 521, and I personally don't think you necessarily need the 521. I feel like, when people have other brands, they're usually in 21 footers. I do think the 20 size Ranger is comparable to anyone else's 21 footer. I know, it's still a foot shorter, but just the way they're built, the width of them, it kind of makes up for it, and just the way they ride. When I had a 21 footer, it was great, but it was only great when it was like 4 or 5 footers, and it's not always like that.
I believe it's closer to 22 feet. I think
it was 2112, 2111, something like that. It was a big boat, a really, really big boat. I went from a 19 footer to that, and it was
so much room for activities.
Yeah, plenty of room, but a lot of dock post hit and stuff. When you're swinging, trying to go through things, it makes a big difference, that extra length, and it's a really heavy boat too. So I found that 520 is like the perfect one. So that's what I'm sticking with for the foreseeable future.
Yep, that's awesome. And yeah, usually in the instances that you guys would be out tournament fishing at any rate, where you would really want and or need a 21 footer, that's usually when they kind of postpone days at that point anyway. Like you said, you're talking like legit 4+ foot waves, and they really haven't been going out in that much the last few years. I feel like probably 8 to 10 years ago and before that, they pushed the envelope a little bit, but it seems like in the last few years they've kind of been taking a much more cautious approach, and they're just like, yeah, you know what, we'll just postpone a day.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about the safety. So like I said, that the 521 was a great boat. There's no doubt about it. But like I said, it only really separated itself from the 520 when it was really, really rough. And in that case, we just stay in now.
Yep. It's funny, I just bought a newer boat for myself, a 2019 Nitro Z21, and like leading up to that final decision, I was like, oh, do I go 20 or 21? Because I know I'm planning on doing a lot more tournaments on Champlain this year, so having that extra length, especially the last fiasco I went through at the BFL this past July, and then the fact that I'm doing more guiding here and there, I was like, and he really convinced me. He's like, dude, just get the 21, and just like I'm not. I don't really have to worry about being too nimble or anything in most cases. I just want real estate for when we have 4 people in there when we're guiding, and I want to go up to Champlain, not have to worry about it ever. So I was like, all right, we'll just stick with the 21 then.
Yeah, no, I've been in a few of those nitros, the 21 XLs. Is it? Is that what it is?
I got the 2019 was right before that, so it's just the Z21. Whereas Brian Visco there, he's got the Z21 XL Pro, which, as far as they know, the only difference was some change to the hull design to give it a better hole shot, but everything else about it, I believe, is still the same as far as how it handles rough water and whatnot. But top end is still pretty close to the same. I think the XL Pro gets a little bit more speed.
Right.
But nope, things still meant we've had it out 1 day in rough chop, roughly. I mean, it wasn't even that bad.
Where?
Did you guys get out like last week or two? When I was up there, you said you were debating on going fishing. Did you ever make it out?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we've been out a bunch.
Pretty much every weekend. This just yesterday. We went down.
I don't pay attention to these things because I don't have my boat. I'm not doing a whole lot of fishing right now. So it's like I don't want to see other people fishing. I get a little jealous.
Oh, I don't blame you one bit. No, we went out yesterday down to Connecticut. We went out for stripers. And then the weekend before, we went to Winnipesaukee, which we had never fished there this time of the year. And I can tell you right now where the fish are not on that lake in the winter.
Yeah, and about pretty much half the lake.
Water.
Yeah, we eliminated almost the entire lake.
Yeah, we covered.
All about.
What is it, 46,000 acres? I think, granted, we didn't fish it all, but we covered probably close to 20,000 of that acreage. Yeah, no. We still couldn't find them, too. We covered a lot of water. But, yeah, no, we've been at it still every weekend. Still will be. Actually, we were just talking about that earlier before the show started, about where to go this weekend. I think Candlewood down in Connecticut probably be the winner, because it looks like it might be kind of ugly weather Saturday into Sunday up near Champlain, where it's just going to be rain down there. And Candlewood's at like 43, so it's like prime.
Should be good.
I bet we go down there and smash some smallies.
Better be good.
It'll be good. We had our fish catch day yesterday. It's out of your system. Let's go struggle bus a little bit.
I don't want to struggle. I want to go catch big fish.
That's why I was thinking Candlewood or Champlain. You can't go wrong with either one.
True. I know. I know. It gets tough around here during the winter.
Yeah, I mean, anywhere nowadays gets pretty tough in the winter, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're going down south and you're in the warm weather and they're calling it winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just on Okeechobee and it was 65 degrees. And they thought it was cold. I was in a t-shirt.
65 is beautiful weather. Yeah, I'll be down there eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Writing's on the wall. The clock is ticking. My man's moving south. He's done with the snow.
Maybe just for the winter. We'll see what Steve says.
Well, tell me a mobile boat rig.
Right?
Yep. But all right, well, before we really probably get started here, for everybody that has joined us so far, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate you as always. Do us a favor, if you haven't done so yet, whether you're watching here on YouTube or on Facebook, just leave a like wherever you're watching. It helps a lot. And let's get into it. So I guess, John, if you want to take a moment and just kind of like really properly introduce yourself, kind of whereabouts where you're from, and then if you want, you can just roll right into it. Like, what I would like to hear, and I know what people watching want to hear, is, obviously you're a Bassmaster Elite angler, but what was that journey like? And if memory serves correct, you live in Pennsylvania. And have you been in Pennsylvania your whole life?
Except for 5 years when I was at school, I went to South Carolina. I was at Coastal Carolina. So,
okay.
Other than those 5 years, I was in Pennsylvania the rest of the time. But like, other than that, I didn't do much other far traveling of fishing other than, when I was down there, I fished the south half. When I was up here, I kind of just fished our lakes around us, between Pennsylvania, New York, and Maryland.
Nice.
So, but yeah, so I'm Jonathan Kelley. I am going into the third season on the Bassmaster Elite Series. Like he said, from Pennsylvania, small little town, Old Forge, Pennsylvania. Not a lot of lakes around me, some small ones. And that's kind of how I got started growing up fishing, doing a lot of fishing with my dad. That's kind of who got me into it. Short story, he was a ski racer and he injured his leg, and my mom told him find a new hobby. So his hobby became fishing, and because his hobby became fishing, became my hobby. So we kind of grew up together, fishing together, just fishing we started out of like a 16-foot aluminum boat and then just progressed our way up, into a little bit bigger of aluminum, like a fish and ski, or not aluminum, fiberglass, like a fish and ski. And then we actually got a bass boat and so on and so forth. So it was definitely, a long process. I mean, 10, 15, 20 years that took place. And then right before I went to college, that's kind of when I really took the next step, got into it, and really got started doing more tournaments. The first tournaments I ever did was as a co-angler for the BFL. Did that for a year or two with my dad, and then it was time for me to go to school. And fortunately for me, the team at Coastal Carolina, there was a bass fishing club, and I joined. So we had a fishing team. I had the opportunity to go fish the college series, and I kind of did that my entire time when I was down there, and that kind of really kind of helped me learn more about the sport. It helped me see new places. I mean, that was the biggest thing. Like, I spent a lot of time fishing in Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, like all those states that are South Carolina and below. And that kind of allowed me to see a handful of different lakes. When you're from the north, and you guys can probably see a lot of our lakes are very similar. You go, you fish for smallmouths, and then sometimes there is grass and you flip up some largemouths or something like that. They're very similar across the board, from lake to lake up around us. But when you go down south, you see it all. I mean, you see, you got your Florida lakes, you got your Carolina clay bank lakes, then you got your Highland reservoirs, you got your rivers and stuff like that. So I think that going down there, being at school, getting a degree was huge. I got my MBA in business administration, but while I was down there doing that, I had the opportunity to fish. And fortunately for me, I was able to see a lot of different lakes, which if I went to a school up north, I don't think I would have ever had that opportunity to see those lakes and kind of grow and learn as a fisherman. A lot of that growing was, through myself and then just buddies that I fished against or fished with at school. So I kind of like taught myself, but also learned from them. Like we kind of helped each other out as we kind of, fish from tournament to tournament. So I did, other than that, I didn't have anyone that I truly was teaching me how to fish. So that was kind of what I did in my path of learning and growing.
Nice. All right. So when you got out of college, what was that next step that you took? That you just started dabbling in club tournaments and then kind of work your way up to bigger tournaments from there before eventually making the, getting qualified for the elites?
After college, I ended up going home, working for my dad. He has a small construction business. So I started working for him, and that allowed me to fish on the side. I was doing at the time Toyotas. And the first one that I jumped in, I did really good. I led after 2 days and ended up, I think, finishing 8th in that event. So that was kind of okay, here's this next step up from college. Clearly you can compete. Yes, it was on the St. Lawrence River. Had a little bit of, tournament success there as I was growing up, but still I just spent 5 years at school down south and I came back and just jumped into a tournament up north. So I didn't have the up to date, knowledge of the place, for the most part. So that gave me the kind of the notion to be okay, maybe I should try fishing the entire series or something like that, just to try to see where it could take me. The opens at those times, I think, was where they were split into, I think it was 2 divisions, an East and a Central or something like that. So if you wanted to fish them, you had to fish one in Florida, you had to fish one in Tennessee, you had to fish one in New York, you had to fish one somewhere else. And at the time, since I just got out of school and was home, it really didn't make a whole lot of sense to do that with the travel, that extra travel. So I ended up settling for the Toyota Northern Series. And I did those for 2 years, did really well. Actually, I missed the pro circuit, which is now the MLF Invitationals, which was the top tier side on the MLF way back then. Yeah. Missed it by 1 spot. And then after I missed it by 1 spot, going into that off season, buddy of mine who fished the elites is why don't you just try to make the elites? And I was honestly, I've never thought of it. I'm working with my dad. Toyotas have these divisions. It made sense for me to stay fishing these. He's like, would you try, just to try to make the elites, try the opens 1 year? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sign up for them. So in 2021, I think that was, I signed up for the opens and ended up qualifying my first go of them, which is definitely a hard thing to do. It's definitely one of the most challenging fields I've ever fished against, when you have 220 some boats almost at every tournament.
Yeah, no kidding. Although those Toyota series are getting up there too, but yeah, the opens are still crazy freaking lot of boats.
Yeah, the Toyotas, I'm actually going to jump in one to start this year down in Florida, and I'm pretty sure that one usually has 275 plus boats.
Jeez.
Where's that one at?
It's wherever the first one is.
Oh, okay.
Which is this year, it's going to be at Okeechobee. But it seems like that first one always gets a big load of people joining it and jumping in. And I don't know if depends on where it's based out of, or just if everyone's got that itch kind of after the holiday, they got to get out on the water. So, people are taking vacation, trips to Florida, and they're like, well, might as well jump in a tournament.
Yeah, no, fair point.
Damn, I missed one by one day.
Nice, man. Well, I'm trying to think. I had another question, and it's already gone. But I'm looking through the chat, too, to see if any questions. By the way, people that are watching, if you do have any questions specific to this, just start throwing them out there at any point as well.
Yeah,
but
I saw
Jody said, all hail the Chanticleers. I'm assuming that must be your hometown, like, school team.
No, that was the mascot at Coastal Carolina, where I went to college. And actually, most people get it wrong. It's actually pretty impressive that you got it right on the first time you said it.
Did I really?
Yeah, most people. I've heard chandeliers,
chandeliers,
Dontoleaders,
Dontoleaders.
Yeah. I mean, you hit it dead on, though. That's impressive.
I'm a well-read person. What can I say? I just do a lot of reading, so I don't know. I picked up on it.
I don't.
You do really good at reading the water in the lake.
You're not wrong.
So, going from let's talk about that from that perspective. Going from fishing the Toyota series to making that jump into the Bass Open series, what would you say was the biggest change in that? Because I feel like the Toyota series do still, I guess, garner a lot of attention from anglers that are definitely good, right? They know what they're doing, and there's probably a pretty high percentage of anglers that do it. The cost is kind of at that balancing point where, someone that's kind of like, I don't know, middling skill set might not want to consider it, but that point, like, a little bit above that point and better, like, yeah, that's in our wheelhouse, and I think I know enough, and it's expensive but not too expensive, so on and so forth. The Opens are a totally different animal. Like, that's not cheap. So, like, if going from just, I guess, there's kind of from one tier to that next up tier, like, what were some of the biggest differences you saw making that jump?
I mean, I definitely consider those two tiers very close. Like, I don't really know if there's much of a jump in them, because like you just said, there's a lot of boats that show up to Toyotas now. You get a lot more local fishermen generally in Toyotas, because the way bass with the Opens is now, you have to either fish a division if you're fishing for a classic berth, or you have to fish online if you're fishing for the elites. So I feel like a lot more locals might go to that Toyota series route, which, if you're going to a place that you don't have a lot of experience and you're fishing against a lot more locals, it could be harder sometimes. But in turn, the competition that also goes to the Opens, whether they're local or not, it seems like everyone is catching them crazy nowadays. So it's like, I do consider them even in a sense of when I was competing. I don't know how they are now, because I also haven't fished them in 2 years.
Yeah.
So I could definitely say the Opens now definitely get a higher interest rate from a lot of more traveling anglers who are constantly fishing. So that might make the Opens a next step up right now in terms of the challenge to do well and take that next step to the next level. So I would definitely give the Opens that now. From when I was there, I think they were definitely pretty similar. So it's definitely, but a lot has changed in the last 2-3 years. And I feel like a lot of people have seen that from all sorts of different aspects, from payouts to the field size to the rules of it and how it kind of all works. So it's definitely something that I don't know if how much of a big step it is, but I do know it's starting to become a bigger step now versus when I did it.
Yep. No, that makes sense.
So when I was doing it, I can say I don't think I thought of it as taking a next step. I kind of just thought of it as it was a tournament and kind of everything aligned in the way it needed to align. Like the year that I missed it by one spot, I was in and after 2 events, and going into the last event, it was on Detroit River. I spent all my time out on St. Clair, found them, truly thought I could probably go top 5, if not even win. And they made the lake of St. Clair off limits. So I was forced to the river. But I can sit here nowadays and say that was probably the biggest blessing I've ever had, because in turn, that next season I went and fished the opens. If I went to St. Clair and did what I thought I could have done, I probably would have been fishing the MLF side right now.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I'll take it, for say that it was a blessing that I didn't make it at the time. I was supposed to be in a different path, and that's now on the Elite Series. So it did work out. In the end, it just took 1 year longer.
There you go.
Yeah, but you did it.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were in that fractional percentage of anglers that have made that jump and stayed at that level. It's just absolutely insane. And I applaud you for being there and continuing to stay there, man. That is not easy.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging.
Maybe it is easy for you. I don't know. I'm making assumptions here.
No, it's definitely challenging. I can definitely say there's a huge jump when you go to the next level. Like now on the Elite Series, the biggest thing is just every single angler catches them in every tournament. I know that's where I say that's your biggest jump. You go fishing the next level down, whether it's the Opens, Toyotas, or anything like that, and you'll see where guys don't bring in limits. The Elites, you could look at one of our worst tournaments of the year weight-wise, Sabine River. I'm pretty sure almost everyone caught a limit like both days. I know there was a couple guys that didn't, but the majority of the field catches limits on some of the most challenging fisheries in the world on the Elite Series, and that goes to show the skill level and the competition that we face is definitely next level.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So we had a question from Frank. What stop are you most looking forward to for the upcoming 2024 season?
So my rookie season, got this question a lot. The question for me is a trick. I didn't used to say a certain place. Now it's every single one. I look forward to every single one because if you pick one and it lets you down, you're kind of going to get dragged down after that. So my first season, there was a couple, like I literally could circle them on a piece of paper, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to fish this one and this one. And then we got to them, and I didn't do as expected. So going into last year, I was like, you know what? Every single one, I'm going to treat everyone the same way. And I had definitely a better attitude going into each one, had a better season, a more consistent season. So I think that was the biggest thing. Definitely going forward, I have to look at everyone the same. Now, there are some that I do enjoy. Like I like smallmouth fishing, catching a lot of smallmouth are fun. For me, it's something I grew up doing, so those are really fun. Especially getting to go to Champlain and St. Lawrence, Lake Ontario. But in turn, all the other 7 events that we have that are not necessarily smallmouth, I'm still looking forward to them equally. Just because it's like you have to bring that same level every single tournament, especially on these series.
Yep. Jody asked, what happened on day 2 of the 2022 Toyota at the St. Lawrence River?
Day 2. Well, let's see.
It's Jody, so you could just never tell if he's being cheeky or serious.
I took a picture of this guy who won the tournament holding some really big fish. That's what happened on day 2. I don't even know if I made a cast that day, but I took a good picture.
That's good.
I love Jody. He's a good dude. Kevin asked, what's your goal this year in the Elites, and what will you consider success at the end of the grind? That's actually a good question, too.
I think everyone's goal is for sure to win AOY. I mean, you have to start there. You want to beat everyone you fish against. But in addition to that, the goal is definitely to make the Classic and hoist the Blue Trophy. So you could say AOY, make it to the Classic, and then win a tournament. That's the 3 goals. I could say that's for probably every single angler we fish against. It probably has to respond the same way because that's what we're there for. That's what we want to do. And that's kind of the competitiveness in us wants us, personally to be at the highest level and beating all our competition. So I really would like to, make my first Classic this year. Well, it'd be next year, but, through this season. So that would be a big goal. And then, going from there, trying to win one and also trying to compete for the AOY.
Damn right, man.
Well, we all wish you the best of luck.
Absolutely.
Sure.
We all need a little bit of luck.
Yeah, no, I feel like at that level, you have to have a little bit of that golden horseshoe up your rear a little bit to be in that winner's circle. But I mean, you know, to an extent, right? Like obviously there's a lot of time in the water that builds up that knowledge and the skill sets and everything, but you know better than anybody. There's so many variables that come into it too that, like, you know, some days, and not just for tournament fishing, but for fun fishing too. Like some of those magical days, like you got to have a little bit of luck on your side and just have everything go right.
Yep. Sometimes those magical days literally come out of nowhere when you're about to give up for the day, or your day could be horrible and you're just about to call it, and then all of a sudden something happens and then it turns into one of the best days of your life.
Yep. Or in my case at the BFL, one of my worst days. It wasn't that bad, but it was pretty bad.
It was pretty bad.
I lost a couple of really, really, really big fish, and I blew my motor a half mile from check-in, so I was 2 minutes late. It was a pretty bad day. But I learned some valuable lessons. That's the most important thing. As long as you come away.
That's the biggest thing. Every single time you're on the water, you got to learn something. And that's one thing I could say I took from college. When I was college fishing, if I had a bad day, I would kind of let it dawn on me. But then, like, kind of as I got older and grew from that, even the worst days I've had on the water, I learned something from. So I take those bad days and try to improve on the next day and, you know, learn from it. And sometimes your best day comes after the worst day. And I try to say that to some people. You can go out on day one and struggle, barely catch them. You might be at the bottom of the standings, but day two matters so much, especially in our case where we're fishing for points and, you know, certain things like that. So it's all about bouncing back. It's all about learning from those tough days on the water. And any day is never a wasted day, in my opinion.
Dude, wholeheartedly agree. We've said that 1,000 times, and we've had quite a few people over the years, just, you know, through our various social media, like, reach out to say, like, hey, I really appreciate how you share even the bad days, because there's, you know, plenty of people out there, anglers like us, where we're not really doing a lot of tournaments. We're much more just, we go out and we fun fish, but we're always trying to learn and then sharing what we learn. Like that's pretty much all we do. It's just go out and learn ourselves, and then, you know, the video is basically just a condensed summary of what we did for the day to try and show people that learning process. And even on the really, really bad days, there's always still something to be learned. I would say Winnie might. This
don't go to Winnie. Yeah. I learned that. I told you guys that from the get-go. Winnie sucks. It doesn't. It really doesn't. I just don't like it.
No, and I mean, we learned where not to look. But, you know, that's one of those rare days where that was like one of the only things that we came out of. We're like, damn, there really wasn't much that we learned out of this today other than we know not where to go. So we knocked out a ton of unproductive water for the next time that we go. So, like, even on the worst days, there is something, one thing that you can point to at the end and be like, yep, okay, we learned something. And even as something as trivial as that, we fished a 46,000 acre lake. We got our teeth kicked in. And, you know, it's not like we got lucky on some new technique that pulled one of the 4 fish in the boat in or whatever. No, it's just, wow, we know not where to go next time. But we eliminated about 20,000 acres of unproductive water. So that's huge. We've eliminated almost half the lake.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So, and that's always the thing that I tell people is I would like to keep it real in that sense that, man, it's not always sunshine and rainbows every time you go out there fishing. Sometimes you get your teeth kicked in, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much time you put out in the water. But those are the best lessons to learn from. And I just make sure we do our best to convey that and really communicate that and just point to all the things that we did try and what may have barely worked, but more importantly, what didn't work. But that's just another tool in the toolbox of information that you get to take out there next time you're faced with those exact same conditions. Dude.
Hey, you remember that time that we were doing this and it wasn't working? Yeah, we should stop.
Yeah. That'll be the next conversation next time we're driving up to Winnie. Hey, remember last time we came over and it sucked? Let's not go here.
Yeah, we should definitely turn around and go south.
All right, I've had Gordy's comment pinned here for like 5 minutes. So 603 Wild, who is our buddy Gordy, do you have a favorite angler that you fish against in the elites?
Not really. I mean, I have some buddies that I fish against. I'll definitely say I'll say one of my best buddies that I fish against is Matty Wong. But to fish against him, I wouldn't say anyone's my favorite to fish against. I got to fish against them, but like me and Matty personally, like we hang out all the time. We travel together. We've actually gone out in the water and had like one-on-one competitions fishing against each other just for fun, usually for dinner. But stuff like that, you know, makes me consider him one of my favorite guys to fish against when we do things like that. But like in terms of the entire field, I mean, I don't even think about any of the other 100 and whatever it is guys there is when we're in a tournament, because I got to focus on the fish first. Now, when you get to weigh in and if you're in second and that one person's ahead of you, yeah, you're thinking about his name. You're like, gosh, I wish he didn't catch him today because I would have been leading then. But for the most part, I kind of just try to block out or kind of ignore all the other names or anglers, whatever you want to say, when you're actually in the tournament itself, just because the biggest focus is me and the fish. And that's how I've kind of tried to live by the last few years fishing. You gotta figure those fish out first. You're not necessarily fishing against the guys. You're fishing against the fish first.
Yep. So I'm going to expand on that a little bit. So you said Matty Wong's your good buddy and you travel with him. Is he pretty much the only travel buddy you have, or is there like a little group of you guys that's like kind of a core travel group that, like helps spread out costs and everything?
I travel some with Matty and then Jamie Hartman.
Oh, nice.
So,
okay.
Back and forth.
Is that fairly common? Like, is it for, I guess, across the elites, if you even know the answer to this, that, it's usually generally a group of like 1 to 2, so maybe sometimes 3 guys, or do you know if there's like a cluster of these pros that are out there that are, traveling like 4, 5, 6 people in a pack, and just to help spread out their costs throughout the season?
I would say the majority of the entire series probably travels in 3s, and probably the reason for that is just parking. Just what a lot of that comes down to. I mean, most houses, I feel like you can always park almost 2 trucks, 2 boats, sometimes 3. But when you get a 4th one in there, it's hard to find a place to stay. It really is. So I think a lot of groups are 3 for that reason. At least that's what, like, if I was traveling, I would try to keep it to 3 for that reason. But yeah, if you could have more and you could fit them, that's great, because you can cut down on the cost of places. I've definitely seen the past, and I kind of seen it prior than the Elite Series. Like back when I used to book some stuff for us for our college tournaments, we'd have like 2 or 3 college teams, we'd be good. But then when there's a tournament, you'd have 3, 4, or 5 boats going. It's like, oh man, like I got to find like that one house, like that diamond in the rough house that could fit all these trucks, all these boats, to house us for the whole week for their event. So most guys are definitely 3. I know there's definitely a few groups that might be more. I just don't know what their traveling situations are. But I mean, there's a handful of groups that, travel / share info, all that stuff throughout the season. And you can probably guess and like see it, if you follow their social medias and like keep up with who is who. Yeah,
well, I tell you what, I am one of the worst people when it comes to following seeing what other people are doing that I follow on social media, because I have just enough time to like post up everything that we do. And then the rest of my time, like I'm busy, obviously, with my family. I'm living in a 6-year-old kid. My wife works evenings, so I lose, it's like that much more one-on-one time with my kids. Less time we're both home that I could like, dip away for an hour or something. And then full-time job as a sales engineer. And then I'm editing. So it's like I don't get to see a lot of stuff. I just don't have time to sit there and fart around on my phone and look at everything.
Yeah.
But
you send me TikToks every day, all day.
That's when I'm in the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
When else am I supposed to send them?
That's why I deleted TikTok.
I barely send you anything anymore. Now I save like the rare, like terrible dad joke. I'll just download the video and send it to him so he has no choice but to watch it. Because I know he's curiosity. He's like, what's this video? Son of a bitch.
No, I just don't watch him anymore.
Bastard.
I've always never watched him.
No, but to your point about traveling, so started 2019, 2020, and then the last 3 years. 19 and 20, we went to St. Lawrence, and it was going to be a big group of us. Just go up there for a week and fun fish. And dude, yeah, you're not kidding. It's hard to find that diamond in the rough of a spot that's like, it's not like a terrible place to stay in the sense of it's not like a rundown shack, but it has plenty of parking for 4, 5, 6 boats. Yeah, it's in a safe spot, and it's not going to cost everybody $1,000 each for a week stay. Yeah. And running the same thing for our fall tournament, the Berkshire Fall Classic. And that's split between 2 lakes in Vermont, and same deal. The last 3 years we've done it. Actually, this year was the lightest. We only had 2 boats, but years before that we had 3 or 4 boats. Like trying to find a place for everybody to stay at was challenging.
Yeah, that last place we had that was really good.
Which one?
The one we just had.
Oh, well, yeah, that was lucky because it was only the 2 boats.
Yeah.
We barely fit. There was half a foot of room between the edge of the road and my buddy's boats, but we made it work.
Yeah, I've had a few of those over the years where you show up and you're like, oh no, like this ain't gonna work.
We're just trying to book an Airbnb. I'm trying to think. Yeah, probably about a month ago was the last time me and my buddy looked into it, and we're looking at St. Lawrence for the early season opener on the Canadian side in May for next year. And but there's going to be like 6 or 7 boats and like 14, 15 people. So it's like, holy crap, this is going to be a challenge. We got lucky. We got lucky. We found what is essentially like kind of like a kids camp kind of thing. And it's a bigger house, but there's 14 individual bedrooms there. And like it's barely bigger than a closet, but there's 3 full bathrooms, and then everybody basically has their own private bedroom with a twin bed. And the place we were going to be 9 nights. It was going to be like $325 per person for the whole week. And I was like, okay, that's a steal.
Yeah,
like
that's not bad at all. Where's that? Whereabouts is that? Whereabouts is that?
Was going to be. It was actually really close to Chameau Bay, so I think it was technically still in Cape Vincent.
Oh, so you're right there with the launch and everything, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's perfect. If we get lucky and the wind plays nice, we can launch in either Mud Bay or the Eastern Ontario access and, run out in Ontario or launch from Cape Vincent or a little further up in Clayton and just go up into the river and just access all Canadian water easily enough. God, I love that area. I can't wait to go back.
I like the lake.
The lake is fun. We've had some heartbreakers out there, but anyway, enough of that. Nobody wants to hear about that story for the 30th time. All right, Frank did ask, which lake best suits your techniques? I may flip his question a little bit and ask, what are your favorite techniques? But if you want to answer the question directly, I feel like that's kind of like asking what's your favorite lake, which we kind of already covered.
Yeah, it's the favorite lake. The one that would be suited for me the most or like suits my techniques. It's hard to say now because, lakes are changing. The way we fish is changing. So there are some lakes that I might have been at in the past where I really liked them. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go back and catch them the same way. Whether we're there at different times of the year or, if the forward-facing sonar plays more now than it did 3, 4, 5 years ago, that plays a big role. So I don't really know on some of those ones yet. Like there's a few that I like to say, but it's hard to say. I know I could say that we were there last year at Lake Murray, so I really liked how that's set up and the techniques that I use there. I think we're going to be there a little bit at a better time for me personally. This time of the year. Last year we were there. They're still kind of on beds. I didn't spend enough time on the beds. I mean, I'm not that tall, so I try to not bed fish as much as possible. The guys I fish against are like 6 foot, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". I don't even know how tall some of them are, but when you're only 5'8", 5'9", it's pretty hard to see some of those bed fish. So if I can avoid it, I try to. But like we ran into a situation last year, like you just couldn't. We're at Lake Murray. Now that we're there, I think 2.5, 3 weeks later this year, I think that's going to put a lot more fish away from the beds and whatnot. Obviously, it'll depend on the moon, but I could definitely say I'm looking forward to how that one's going to set up technique-wise. Because it's going to be, we got a little bit of a preview of it last year, and it should only be better this year.
Nice. Garrett asked.
I was going to say.
Yeah, what's your PB largemouth and smallmouth? I am going to expand on that. Because now you fish extensively in the north and the south. What's your PB largemouth, smallmouth in the north and the south?
Oh, man, you're really going to ask me to dig deep into my brain on that one. So the PB largemouth is 9.3. That was caught in Florida. Total accident. Caught it on day 3 of practice, my rookie year on the elites.
Yep.
Definitely was a heartbreaker.
That's a big fish.
Yeah.
Biggest fish I ever caught, and it was cool to catch it, but would I have loved to catch it the next day? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my biggest smallmouth ever is 6'8". Oof. And that was in St. Lawrence River.
That's what I was going to guess. It was either the Ontario or the river.
I've caught 2 of them in the river.
Damn.
Same week.
Damn.
One in a turn, one in practice.
This is why we're going back in the spring, because I want to get in that 6-pound club in the worst way.
Yeah, I
Wasn't
know.
in the spring. It's hard to do in the spring, in my opinion.
Oh, for
There's a
real?
lot of. I just feel like there's a lot of 4 and 5s in the spring from what I've seen. I haven't spent a ton of time up there.
Yep.
Unless you time it perfectly. Every time I've been up there, you can catch a boatload of 4 and 5s, but it definitely is challenging to find those 6s. I mean, that's a giant fish, so it is tough. But the two 6.5s I caught were in the fall. And then northern largemouth, man, it's been so long, but I would think it's got to be a 6-pounder. I just can't really pinpoint exactly when, where, and how big it was.
I would have guessed that you would have one over 7 in the north, because you're at a
No.
better spot
No.
too, where a little more prevalent.
Nope, I definitely never had a 7-pounder up north. I know that for sure. I honestly would say it probably just touched 6 pounds up north.
No
Maybe
kidding.
maybe like a 6.5 on like the Chesapeake Bay or something, or Potomac River.
Yep.
But actually up north, like in like Champlain, stuff like that, I've never caught one that big.
Well, we may not be Elite Series anglers, but we have a 7-pound largemouth each in the north. No, I'm kidding.
Now, my dad and his buddy that travels with him and fishes like BFLs and stuff, they caught an 8-pounder out of Champlain. It was a largemouth. It was.
Damn.
That's a big large for there.
Yep, they fished it. We all fished a BFL on a Saturday.
Yep.
They were leaving, but stayed to fish on Sunday, and then I was staying the entire week for a Toyota, and they went out on Sunday and caught it, and I was like, "You guys just had to go there." That fish is long gone to come the next week.
Oh yeah, dude. That like the thing about Champlain is you fished it enough now, like the sheer number of like high 3s to low 4s for both species, but especially smallmouth is insane. But now largemouth, like getting to that 6-pound mark is kind of hard. Like you don't hear about too many of them.
No,
they
not
show
at all.
up, but especially the 7s and 8s, you would think there'd be more, but it's not that often. Our buddy Dennis, so we've gone up to Champlain for a 4-day trip the last 4 years in a row now. We always go like middle of May, and we stay on the northern end, so it's just like prime pre-spawn. Every year we've gone, it's like absolutely prime pre-spawn. It's amazing. And so our buddy Dennis, he's been going up there for the last 20 years, and he's got an 8. I think it was an 8.25 that he got out of there, and it was up on the northern end too. Which is just
that's
silly.
where his was. It didn't even look like it belonged in the lake. Like it looked like no largemouth I've ever seen there. Like if you know that he has no capabilities of using technology and phones and stuff like that, you would have thought he photoshopped it. Like it just did not look.
Just a straight up circle, all fat.
The eyeballs were huge, popping out. It even had like a little bit whiter of a color. Like just didn't even look like a in the grass, Champlain largemouth.
Interesting.
Could be living on the sand.
Yeah. I really like this from Ryan. What bait surprised you last season that you found yourself having the most unexpected success with in more than one body of water? That's a really good one.
That is a good one. So it's a bait that I threw as a kid. Forgot about it. No, I didn't forget about it. I kind of just put it away, and I brought out a wacky rig again last year. So I throw a Zoom Slinky, just throw it on a wacky rig, or I throw a Texas rig with no weight in it at all, just a hook, and brought that out at Seminole. I did good after the first day at Seminole. I think I was in second or third. And the fish that I was fishing for, I had a wave that pulled up. Caught him on day 1. Day 2, it was kind of catching the scraps, but it was tough. And I think I had like 8 pounds on day 2, and I'm like kind of like in my head, I'm trying to going through what can I do? What could I change to? How can I do this? Should I just completely bail on everything and go fish somewhere else? Which I did for 3 days of practice and didn't work. So I was like, that'd be the stupidest thing I could possibly do right now. So I was like, you know what? Let's just kind of slow it down, go old school. It was in my box. I'm pretty sure it was on live camera on day 2. I was like, I got to switch up. I pulled out the Zoom Slinky, and it was literally the first cast. I caught one. I was like, no way. Cast, maybe 2 casts later, catch another one. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, because I just had no intention of throwing this bait at all. It was on the bottom of my rod locker. Didn't think it would come into play, for the way I was fishing. And then I started noticing that there was grass around. So I was like, okay, I could be more effective. Let me put this weightless worm on Texas rig and just pitch it in all the holes. And sure enough, that bait literally got me through that tournament. Got me through at least 2 or 3 other tournaments throughout the year. And it was a bait that I like did not heavily rely on, honestly, for at least 5-6 years.
Isn't that funny how that works?
Yeah.
Like
it was like the light bulb moment went off.
Going back in the old tackle box and finding something, be like, "Oh, this used to work," and it still does.
Yeah.
We were talking about that not too long ago about some other various baits. But yeah, dude, like just wacky rig. I don't like to do it when I'm fun fishing because I don't know. It's just I've got this weird thing about it. I've got nothing against it. It's just I would prefer to catch them a million other ways before throwing that. But and I say this, I've said this probably 100 times at 137 shows we've done now for the live show. I feel like you're a damn fool not to have it tied on for every tournament. Will I throw it every tournament? No, and we don't fish that many. We only do like 5 or 6 a year, but I have it tied on for every single one, and it will come out and will get thrown at least once at some point during the day. And just a wacky rig, wacky worm has caught us a fair number of fish. And like even on days where we've been doing really, really good, and all of a sudden it kicks out lunker for the day for us. Days we've been getting our teeth kicked in, tire spinning all friggin' day, and then the last 2 hours, let's just go throw this thing. And all of a sudden we've got our limit and we kind of salvage the day. Like that's happened plenty of times. Been 2 occasions where we caught lunker for the day, throwing that thing. Like it's just, I won't go anywhere without it. And if I know I'm fishing a lake that is really grassy, to your point, dude, I love throwing that weightless Texas rig style. I like throwing the fluke a little bit better, but I have both tied on, and just it's just stupid effective. And I feel like it actually probably benefits us that we don't throw it until we're in tournament situations, but it's in areas that we already know are productive.
Until we're getting our teeth kicked in?
And not always, but yes.
Fine, we'll take out the Senko.
But, it's like, we go to these places where we fished a dozen different times, and we've thrown everything we typically throw, and we get the odds or ends things here that we try new, and then push comes to shove, that thing comes out, but we already know the fish are there, and we're just throwing something that we usually don't throw. I don't know. I feel like that may be also part of the benefit of it for us, just because of how infrequent we throw it. Food for thought.
Yeah. So there's guys that throw it all season long, and they make good living off that bait. But a lot of us ignore it. We're fishermen, and we overcomplicate things. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
So before I ask any other questions, I will preface them because there's a couple in here that I see that I'm not sure how these would want to be addressed. So if there's something you don't necessarily want to answer, by all means, we can go skip right to the next question, and there's no pressure from us, man. You don't have to talk about anything in depth about anything. So
okay.
You could literally just be like, nah, next.
As simple as that. So Mike asked, how is your sponsorship journey going into the elites? And now we're getting kind of into the money aspect of things. And some people are not really comfortable talking about that. So totally get it if you want to skip right over this.
Going into it, so if he's referring to like prior to being, quote unquote pro at the top level, I had some small deals, some with some local companies, and a handful of product deals and some other, smaller scale deals with some fishing companies. Definitely was fortunate to have that support from those companies. Anything helped. I was just kind of getting into it, trying to make a name for myself, trying to work my way up. So the partners I made from college, I would say a lot of those were from that. When I was in college, I was the vice president of the fishing club, so I handled quite a bit of the couple sponsorships that we had as a college team. So in turn, that kind of carried over. Like I had a couple connections established. I known a few people just from that. Not much, just a couple people I knew, and I had those partnerships already established. So I continued those once I left college, and then, like I said, I had a couple small local sponsors that kind of chipped in, helped me out a little bit here and there with entry fees as I was fishing the Opens or Toyotas or something like that. So that's kind of how it was prior to the elites. And then once you make the elites, it gets bigger, but you have to make it get bigger. It's not you make it and then someone's instantly sliding into your DMs. I think that's a big misconception. A lot of people think you make it and all of a sudden it rains down on you. The work kind of didn't even start when you make it. It just now started. So you have to literally go through, make the connections if you didn't already have them, whether that be phone calls, emails, text, just varies from people to people, company to company, and just kind of try to grow your brand. And you have to make those partnerships. And it varies from angler to angler. I see some that are full on 100% nonstop. Others choose not to. We see a little bit of that going on right now. Unfortunately, you're seeing some things going on in the industry right now. Some things were said. So
Yeah.
it's all about what you make of the opportunity. Like I said, it applies to anything in life, so nothing is given. You have to go out there and work for it. You have to build those relationships, make those partnerships, and kind of help those, if they're companies and they're in the fishing industry, you have to help those companies grow. That's what they want from you as an angler. They want to see their products being sold. So if they're putting time into supporting you, whether that's with a discount, whether it's with product or financially, they want to see the return. They want to see you at events. They want to see you not only supporting and helping out for their brand, but they want to see you as an angler building your brand up and being the best person you can be for your brand to represent not only them as a company, but also yourself within the fishing industry. So I know that's kind of a lot, but I could probably go on for days about it.
No, I will ask another question to give you, I guess, a little direction on how to expand on that. So you have your whole tournament season and you have your sponsors and the work that you do for them. How many days out of the year do you think you have dedicated just to doing stuff for sponsors? And not in the sense of like you're, what most people would probably think of, right? Like keeping up with social media and doing like a video or two here and there. But I'm talking like things that are planned. Like you're working with the marketing department, they have something in mind, you're going to dedicate a day or even a couple days to doing it. Like how many times a year or even days total in the year do you have, I hesitate to call it obligations, but essentially obligations like that?
It definitely varies, in certain times of the year, but it's nonstop because it all depends on where we are too. And I make it a point with any of my sponsors or partners, especially if we're going to around where they are, that's an opportunity for me for not only for them to get with me where we can do something, but also for me to stop and see them and do whatever I can. So I necessarily don't have a set number planned because that could change. But like, for example, I was just down a couple weeks ago. I filmed down in Georgia with ARC. That's my rod sponsor. We filmed for 3-4 days down there, had a great time with the guys. When I left there, I could have drove straight home to Pennsylvania, but I didn't. I drove up to Zoom, stopped at Zoom, spent a few hours at Zoom, left Zoom, drove over to Spro, and spent a few hours at Spro. And then I went home after that. I wasn't asked to stop, but I made it a point because they've supported me all season long. They've helped me out being a professional angler on the Elite Series as well. So I wanted to make sure I could stop, see them, check in, and kind of just, talk a little bit. And if there was anything I could have did while I was there, we would do it. Now, and again, in that case, I was just stopping for the day. So it wasn't like we were going to go, oh, let's go jump on the water and film or anything like that. I didn't even have my boat with me. So, but still, it's things like that where you don't necessarily, for me, I don't have a set number because I'm constantly just trying to make it to as many times as I can. With the Classic, there's ICAST. There's a couple other shows that go on throughout the year. If I'm ever going to be in those areas or, passing through those areas, I always try to make it a point to stop because, it helps me grow myself as a person, as an angler, and then help build and grow my relationship with these companies. So that's it's a never ending thing. And it can't be, because once you say, oh no, I don't want to do this. No, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. How do you think that's going to make them feel? Like if you were putting support into me and I said, no, I'm not doing this for you, how would you feel? You kind of would be a little upset with it. So I just try to do as much as I can anytime that I possibly can.
Nice. I like it.
Especially being a younger angler too. And that's where a lot of us, I think, a lot of people don't get that. Like you have to work your way up. Like, we make it to the elites, but we're not Kevin Van Dam. Like he took years to grow his brand and get, better and better and more established. Like, and all of us guys, none of us are him. Like we all would love to be to the level he was at or is at. I say was because he retired, but he's still there. He's still like literally the face of our industry. But it takes many, many years and many, many days of hard work. And I bet you he would say the same thing. He would not have a fixed number of days that he's going to show up for his partners and sponsors. It's as much as that he can possibly do to fit in with everything else he has going on.
Yep, that makes sense. I remember watching, now I can't remember if it was an article I read from him or it was a video, but I think it was a video, and this was probably like 10 years ago. And touching upon the aspect of like the money aspect behind being a pro angler. And he said that almost all the money he makes to survive and live and thrive, none of it is done on the water. None of the work comes from on the water. It's everything he does off the water with his sponsors and just making the most out of that relationship with them and the opportunities to not only help them, but for them to help him so that relationship, it's always evolving and really understanding the needs and wants and desires and kind of goals that both are working towards and understanding like what can that path look like to try and achieve that together. And it's just a constantly evolving but constantly worked on relationship with those companies to get the best out of both of each other.
Yeah, and you learn like more and more as you go along, and that's with anything. It's not just with fishing and being us as anglers with our partners and sponsors. You kind of get an understanding year after year, like how this company works, how, the things that they do or the things that they typically plan. So when I first made the Elite Seal, I had no idea. Like I did not have that already established with a lot of the companies. Now I could say it's a lot better because I've had 2 full years of experience where I've had those partnerships and I'm continuing and going forward more and more. Like I was on the phone today with the owner for Mark for an hour. We were just talking back and forth nonstop. You basically turn those partnerships into friendships. And, that's the biggest thing that I try to develop with all my sponsors is to just try to build a friendship out of it and grow more and more, throughout the years. And like, I can do that with a lot of my sponsors, pick up the phone, call them whenever I need to, talk about, maybe it's just a product. Maybe it's just talk about anything for the day, not even fishing related. I've done that many times. And that's the part that makes it easier on me when we can do that, because now we are building a friendship in addition to the partnership that we have working for these companies.
Nice, man. I like it.
Sorry, I was seeing what the hell you were doing.
So while he was talking, I saw some guy.
I saw that.
Yeah, something in politics.
Sorry, John.
I really don't care what politics anybody's into, but politics have no place during the stream. But he also swore in there too, and my kids watch. So no. So but I just also realized that we don't have enough moderators going in the chat right now. Our usual crew of moderators are not here. So I mean, we got Ryan and we got DJ, but it's just the two of them so far. Oh, there's Dan. Dan's always bouncing in and out. So I added Alec there. Alec, you were...
Dan, you should see if you can get this dude up at the expo next year.
Yeah, New England cool. Fishing Expo. That's the biggest show in New England.
Yeah, I've heard it's a pretty good one.
It's good. It's really good. I mean, if some
fun.
Really, I mean, the New England show is great and it's huge, but even the New Hampshire Outdoor Expo is still pretty good too. And that's like... Not only is it relatively new, but I think some of the biggest challenges the first year or two that he had it was overcoming that negative perception that the New Hampshire Expo had from the previous guys that used to run one. And kind of similar name, but not really at the same time. But people just called it the New Hampshire Fishing Show. And that's anything that has come since then. Like everybody just associates it as the same. And the one that used to be here in a totally different part of the state was a joke the last like 5 or 6 years that it had. But since he's gotten past that and proven to people like, no, it's a totally different show and it's like really good. Even the New Hampshire show drives like a lot of traffic. If the two of us, really, really small channel, like we still made pretty good sales just on apparel at the show at the beginning of this year. And the New England show probably gets twice as much traffic. So it's like, I don't know. That's not me bragging about us. That's me proving a point that in the grand scheme of things in the fishing industry, we're still pretty goddamn small. But we still have done very well for ourselves in that realm, even at the smaller of the two shows. But that New England show is nuts.
It has a lot of foot traffic.
Yep. And he's got a new venue this year for I'm not sure how long, but at least the next several years, and it's definitely a much better location. Show is going to be huge.
Even like Kevin says, even in a blizzard, everyone shows up. Yeah. We had last year. Was it last year? We had like 2 feet of snow.
Yeah, and there was still a lot of people that showed up to it. I mean, it was. Don't get me wrong. It was still greatly decreased, but the number of people that still showed up was actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So if you're a fisherman, you better get to the New England Fishing Expo, is what you're saying.
Damn right.
Pretty much.
New England Fishing Expo in Marlborough, Mass, February 2nd through the 4th. We will be there, but he will not be there.
I will be there.
But he'll be with...
But I will be working the Bass Fishing Electronics booth with Steve and Brian, and I think a couple other guys.
Gotta be selling that product.
Oh, yeah.
Steve poached my buddy. I mean, Steve actually pays you, so...
Yeah.
Fight over.
He's my boss.
It's understandable. I guess I can let it pass. Actually, the wife and I were talking about that earlier. I think I might have to take an extra half day off from work just because of the drive in order to make sure I have enough time to set everything up because I'm not going to have you to help me. So I need a little bit more time plus the extra drive. You're going to have to help Steve set up.
I am going to have to help Steve, but if there's some time at the end of the Thursday, maybe I'll give you him.
Do you remember what his booth looks like?
Oh, I'm aware of what's going on.
Yeah, you're not going to have time, guy.
I'm aware of what we're bringing.
You're not going to have.
We're still working on one of the parts of the show.
I seen pictures of the display from the last time, and he ain't gonna have time to come help you. You're gonna be on your own.
I know.
No. I mean, the plus side. No. But the plus side is you and I were smart. Well, I say you and I, and my wife were really smart with how we set up, like how we built out our booth. Like our booth is really nothing. It's some display shelves and tables and stuff, but we did it in a way that made it easy for us to set it up. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I have a ton of work, even setting up for Big Bass Dreams and Defiant. Like that stuff went up super easy. So it's really like
2 big banners and some other display stuff.
Yeah, just putting it all out. The big thing is going to be managing inventory day to day. We learned some lessons. We learned some hard lessons from the show last year. Well, earlier this year. We're going to do better this time. After ordering another couple $1,000s in apparel. Challenges, man. Growth, it's all awesome, though. All right, I saw one from Footy Fan. We're going to try and rifle through some of these more because I don't want to keep you up here too long. But I'm gonna shift a little bit the wording on this. First off, specifically or directly, can you describe the shift in mindset needed going from fun fishing or fishing for fun to fishing for money? I would shift that a little bit and ask, was there a shift in your mindset going from growing up fun fishing, doing the smaller tournaments, now like this is your career? Was there any shift in your mindset?
No. I mean, I was always fishing for money, even at the lower levels, even at the Opens, the Toyotas, even the BFLs. No matter what I was fishing for, I was trying to win something, whether that was to at least win an entry fee back, win a little bit of gas money or whatever. Definitely always was fishing for money when it came to tournaments of those larger sizes. But I think it is crucial to still remember, like, you got to have some fun, whether you are fishing for money or whether you aren't fishing for money. Now, the way I do it, I do like to reset. And sometimes that reset is just go fun fishing, whether it's take a kid fishing, go back home fishing with my dad again, or just go out with a friend, kind of resetting, especially with our season. We get into a couple months throughout the year where things get a little jam packed on top of each other. And you kind of get to that point where you start getting a little burnt out. Sometimes all it takes is just press the reset, go fun fish with someone, maybe go throw a bait that you don't typically like throwing, and you can kind of resettle yourself and kind of focus on what you started doing. Everyone didn't start fishing for money, and I don't care who says it. At some point, you started for the love of fishing. Some people might have been 2 years old. Some people might have been 50 when they started, but everyone did it for fun at one point. So I try to make sure I keep it that way as much as I possibly can, even when money is involved, because I have noticed, like, even in our tournaments, when again, we're fishermen, we overcomplicate things. When I overcomplicate things, you tend to have less fun. When you do that, you have a tougher time sometimes. When
Simple
when you go out there and try to have some fun, it's like, whoa, this just turned into one of the best days ever. So it's one of those things that I'm still trying to balance. I mean, I know I'm still young, so I'm not perfect at it, and I don't expect to ever be perfect at finding the perfect balance. But I definitely know the fun part is key to maintain, throughout any level, even
Dude,
when it comes to market.
If you're not having fun, it's not fun.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think you see some anglers where they don't re-sign up to fish the next season because I think they lose the fun part of it. They think they kind of go money and money and money, or they get so focused and they just kind of, the fun slips away. So I know you see that every year. A couple anglers, I think, kind of leave because they lost the fun of it.
Dude, I see it even like at the local level. Guys that just chase that tourney scene so hard, and like that's all they do. Their entire season revolves around tournaments on 3 out of the 4 weekends they have all season long. And and then it's like yeah, all right, great. Like you won a handful of them, you made money in the majority of them, but like you had to adhere to this strict schedule, fishing the same 10 bodies of water all season long to make couple $100 when you're all said and done, maybe a couple of grand. And then these are all guys that are primarily like the local level from the majority of their tournaments, and then do some of the regional stuff. Like they'll do a Toyota event or a BFL or two, but otherwise they're just chasing like that local thing. And they first couple of years of fishing, they like of actually understanding what they're doing and trying to learn and progress, and they jump right into that tournament scene. That's all they do. Like 90% of the season is just tournaments, and then by the time they hit mid-30s, they're like, dude, I'm like, I just don't even know why I'm doing this anymore, but I don't even know if I'm going to fish this year. And it's like, what the hell happened? Like, you kind of lost your way there. Like, you got to just go out and have fun. And we get our fair share of shit from people that like, oh, you guys talk about how good you do all the time. You just go on fun fishing, doing it in a tournament. And like, that's not the point.
We try, but we do.
Right. And we go out and we travel, we have fun.
Right.
Like the fun is in learning and going to a different body of water we've never been to, and figuring the shit out right on the fly, putting the pieces together. And like that's my drug, man. I love the challenge of putting the pieces of the puzzle together with nothing to go off of. You're just out there relying on every single last scrap of information you have ever gathered over your entire life of fishing, and trying to figure out which scraps and nuggets need to be pieced together to understand that body of water on that particular day without any other knowledge. Like, I love that. And I know it's definitely helped us become better anglers, but it's just fun, too, to be able to go out and travel and do these new places.
We go out and we have, like, a couple really, really good days on a certain body of water. And then we're like, okay, where on the map do you want to go next? And we pick, like, random bodies of water, and we fish them until we figure them out. It could take one day, could take a month, could take couple of years to figure out what the hell's going on in that lake. But we still do it because we love it. We love the challenge, and then we figure out the bite, and then we're like, okay, where's next? And we just keep going and going and going. I mean, we've fished almost every single lake in New Hampshire. Pretty damn close to it. At least southern New Hampshire, I think we fished almost every single lake.
Yeah, pretty much.
At least once. And it takes time. It takes time to figure it out. And for you guys to go out there and do it in like a week just to get, and you win a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like it's
3 days. We get 3 days to figure it out, practice wise. And then you got to kind of build off those 3 days in the tournament. Like for ours, it's constantly trying to build off. Like you said, you take all those pieces. Most of the guys don't win these tournaments because they win it in practice or figure it out in practice. They're winning it day after day after day as the tournament's going on, just putting a new piece together every day. I mean, any fishery anymore, it's hard to be consistent for 4 days. So that's kind of how the sport has evolved, where you constantly have to keep taking those pieces. And sometimes it might be that piece that you had when you were 16 years old and you threw a crankbait up on a point and it kind of clued in your head that color works that time of the year, and you might piece it together in an event 20 years later. You never know.
Yep. One of my favorite sayings that I use to describe what it is about this sport that I love so damn much goes back to what I just said a minute ago, is like that, just figuring it out all the time. So my favorite saying as a result of all of that is, for me, fishing is like playing chess, but the fish change the rules every day. Like
every hour.
Yeah, like chess, and that analogy in and of itself, like it's complex, right? That's the implication behind it. But then they change the goddamn rules every day, or like you said, every hour, even in some cases. Like that, that's the best analogy I've ever had. But my God, I love playing that game with them. I can't get enough time on the water to do it.
Yeah, and you have to have that mentality to be like that, to constantly keep going at it. You have to be mentally trying to, want to you have to want to keep learning how to figure them out, because they're never going to just be there with their mouth wide open ready for you to throw your bait in it.
Yeah,
As much as we wish it was like that, it just doesn't seem like it.
You got to have the bad days to know that the good ones are good ones.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's for sure.
So 3D fishing, as our buddy DJ asked, what's the hardest part about finding a good bite or pattern with all the added pressure of the elites being on the same water? That's an excellent question, because you're out there with, 90 boats on the elites?
I think 103 this year. We had 103 or 104 last year. What's the hardest part about finding a good bite? Well, you can usually find good bites, but with the elite field, everyone finds us good bites. It's like like when we were at Champlain, first day of practice, I think I had 21 or 22 pounds before 10 o'clock, and I was one of 5 boats in that region. And then day 2, I was like, well, I'm going back to that region to try to expand throughout the whole area. There was like 30 boats, and I was like,
Mm.
And then I went back on day 3, and there was like 99 boats, and I was like, oh god. I was like, oh god. Well, we're committed to being in this region of the lake, and that's where we're staying. So you could find the good bites, a lot of the obvious things, and I say obvious because our mapping systems, our side scan, is so good nowadays, where we can use our lake master and we can find, we can basically look at a map before we even been to a lake and say, I'm going right here. It's going to show a good point. It's going to show the good contour lines on the lake master. And we run there and we drop the trolling motor, and right away we could start catching some fish sometimes. Now, I'm not saying it's that easy. It always happens, but that's how good the mapping has gotten, where you can find good bites on obvious things. But I think the key to fishing at the elite level is to try to find something not as obvious, and that can vary. Sometimes that is a certain pattern based off a certain time of the day. I know there are some older anglers that are really good at that. They just know, like, those fish might not bite at 10 o'clock, but at 2 o'clock, it's going to happen. And I think a lot of that comes from years and years and years of experience based off of the times of day, times of year, the cover that they're on, and stuff like that. It's finding those little things that they can piece together. It's not just finding one spot that wins them a 4-day tournament. It's finding little bits and pieces throughout those 4 days that they put together. And I feel like that's how they build those patterns, those good bites. That's the way that you see guys separate themselves. It's those little things that get put together throughout a 4-day event. And it's rare to see someone anymore just land on them on day 1, catch them, and then be able to fish that same spot for the next 3 days in a row. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Yep.
But that was a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin did ask, what techniques have you had to learn on the Elite Series that you never did prior? That's an interesting take.
I mean, the forward-facing sonar techniques are definitely, newer in a sense, where I've done all those before, but like you just didn't commit to them as much as you do nowadays. So that's definitely one. The big bait bite is something that I've added in a little bit more. I never threw a big bait. I never had a big bait prior to making the elites. So I've learned to kind of catch a few fish on them now. Not saying I'm a big bait fisherman, or I'm not even saying I'm good at it, but I do feel like I've built some confidence over the last 2 years to now put one in my hand in certain situations. Now, before the elites, you would have never seen me throw one. I would have never had the confidence to pick one up, even during practice, let alone a tournament. So that's definitely a bait that's been added in that I feel like kind of didn't get thrown much. And then,
I'll let you borrow a Depths 250.
All right, good. I'll pick it up next week.
Okay. All right. You coming up?
uh, I would say another one that I had added in recently that I probably didn't throw a whole lot was a trap. Now I've thrown the traps over the years, but you just throw a trap a lot more when you're down south. So that kind of is something I didn't throw a lot, hardly ever when I was younger. Then I went to school and didn't have the experience, threw it a little bit, but didn't know enough about how to throw that. Like I was just like, I'm gonna throw a bladed jig or I'm gonna throw something else instead. But now like the more and more, especially when we have these early season pre-spawn, right before the spawn tournaments, that trap bite can be incredible. So it's really putting that to use more than I did in the past, just because I kind of neglected it.
I'm the same way. I haven't really fished it much, but the way I was fishing it this year was a lot different than I'm sure a lot of people have ever fished it.
Changed your perspective on the matter, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, I like them.
Dude, that was a bait that, just on that topic, I threw for years. And it was probably like 3 years ago. I just had a really bad year with it. Like in ideal situations that I had consistently for years done really, really well. And then I was like, oh, I'm just going to put it down. And like, it's funny when especially when we get to spring fishing, we always try and revisit that topic of like, our favorite techniques for early spring fishing. Like it used to always be a lipless. And I know it excels for many people, but my God, dude, I can't get bit on that thing to save my life the last 3 seasons. And now it's starting to bother me. Like I could understand a year, maybe 2, but 3 years of getting my teeth kicked in, throwing something that I have had great success with in the past, and everybody around me still kicking ass with it. It's like, what the crap?
I got a feel on it. Nothing big.
Actually, I got another really good one. One that I had to learn more about: deep cranking. I mean, you guys could probably vouch for it up north. You don't deep crank up north. You very rarely.
Well, it's funny you bring it up because the last 2 seasons, my other friend Dennis and I we talk like what are we going to learn this year? Like every year, it's always been for me. I'm going to pick one thing and learn it. And he was like, "You really need to add deep cranking to your repertoire." And I was like, all right, why not? And I meant to do it last year, and I didn't. And I meant to do it again this year, and I didn't.
Same.
And he really went after it hard again this year. And what was it? I was just looking at the other day. I can't remember the exact weight, but I think it was
6 1/4.
6 1/4 Smalley on Champlain this spring in May, like late May, deep cranking. Like, son of a bitch. All right, I'll pick it up. But you're right, because I don't know, up north it's just not as big of a thing. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. It was kind of like when big swim baits became a big thing up here.
Yeah, everyone's like, nah, that's a Florida or California thing.
Yeah,
and then it exploded up here.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Mike
Bucca.
Mike Bucca, the owner of Bullshit Swim Baits, he made a point of saying that at the New England show 2 years ago. He's been there every year. He was like, honestly, like a bulk of our business comes out of New England for all the big bait stuff. Like the scene up here is insane, which, like you said, that was like overnight. No, nobody throws that. It's a California thing too. That's all we do up here.
Yeah, I know. My first big bait fish, I like kind of lost my mind, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep doing this forever. It's just fun.
I'm hooked.
Yeah.
And then you
No
go a
pun
couple days.
intended.
Then you go a couple days, you don't get a bite, and you're like, oh god.
Yeah, this is why I fish everything else still.
When I first started, I actually got bit a bunch.
Yeah, you did.
Like a bunch. Like more than
You're like,
conventional.
this is easy.
Yeah, dude, seriously. Like I've seen fish bigger than my PB follow my bait up more than a lot of times. And it's frustrating, but I know that they're there now.
Right.
And you can turn around and flip a jig in now or something else and catch them.
What's your favorite big bait that you've been throwing?
I mean, I've been throwing this Pro Chad Chat a lot. I really have. It is a sponsored bait, but I've been throwing it to get used to it, and knowing I need to pull that out versus anything else. Caught an 8-pounder on it when we were filming with Arc, so
Nice.
it's pretty cool
That's
to see
sick.
that bite. It was, I think we're in like 18 feet fishing some standing timber, and I probably caught it. Had the bait like 10, 12 feet down, and it's a really good bait because I've noticed personally working that bait. You can go deep with it and it doesn't blow out. It doesn't turn over. It doesn't like get hooked up, fouled up. And that's a hard thing you have with some big baits. Well, most big baits is they roll over or they get fouled up on themselves. So if you're trying to like fish it deeper, other than just around docks or just below the surface, it gets hard. So to find a good bait, I think that Spro Chad Shad is really good for fishing in a deeper water column. I mean, that's how I'm going to utilize it as we head into the year. If I, are fishing any areas where I feel the need that I might need to fish a big bait deeper, that's going to be one in my hand just from the experiences I've had. Those little couple things I've, put together being on the water and how the bait works. Hopefully it goes a long way, and hopefully you're going to see on live camera a big fish caught on it.
Hopefully.
Dude, that'd be awesome. It's no. I mean, how do you like fishing it more? Because the thing I like about that bait is you can just glide it or you can chop it. Like, because I have one and I love it because it's very versatile. Whereas the vast majority of my other baits, I mean, specifically the glides, all of them are bigger. Like, I have very few that are under 9 inches. Most of them are like 9 or 10 inches because that's just watching him do it and then having more of my own success with it. I'm just much more comfortable fishing a giant glide.
I won't fish anything under like
7.5.
9.
I think. Well, you enjoyed throwing that one from Golden Belt Customs. That's a 7.5.
That one was cool.
That was a really good bait. And Chat's kind of along that same lines. But anyway, that my question would be for you: what's your favorite way to fish it? If you could force him to bite it anyway, you'd like chopping it more, or you like getting that slow S-turn and glide out of that thing?
I guess it depends on how the fish are reacting to it. That's how it was where I was when I was using it. They weren't reacting at all when I was going slow. Like, I was throwing it right through them. I'm like, are these even bass? But they're huge. Like, I can see them on the live scope. I'm like, these are massive. And like we were told there could be 10, pluses where we were. So then I threw it out one time. I let it go down, and I just started going really fast with it. And all of a sudden, there was 3 fish. They all came to it. And the first one grabbed it, but the 2 behind them were bigger than the one that I saw eat it, judging by the, looking at the sonar. And in that instance, it came down to working it much more erratic, where it was kind of cold, cool fall. Sometimes people might say you'd want it to be a little slower and tighter then, but I think it just depends on the time of day, the fish's attitude, getting them to react. I think it was in the afternoon. If it was in the morning and the conditions were right, I might have been able to throw my first cast and worked it however I want and got that fish to bite. But it just didn't set up that way.
Yeah, I need to recommit to that deep water glide. I literally bought another glide specifically for throwing it deep. And by deep, I mean like what you were talking about, only like 15 feet down. It's really not that deep, but it's way deeper than we would typically throw a glide. And I just never did it. Well, the one lake that we had in mind, we were going to go out and like, okay, this makes sense to really go out and try it at. And we know we're going to have our best chance of success out there. And then the lake took a giant dump on itself this year, so we just didn't go back.
I mean, we did catch a couple. Did we catch any there on glide baits this year? I caught one. I know that in the tournament.
Well, if you're only throwing 9 inches or bigger glide baits, I wouldn't count on catching more than one.
I've caught like 4 or 5 in a day on it.
That's crazy.
Which is kind of actually ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't even own. I think the biggest one I have, I don't even think it's 8 inches. But for my case, it's a lot harder for us to throw those bigger baits, where in a tournament it's
you got time against you.
You can catch a big fish on them, don't get me wrong, they catch giants, but like we sometimes have to play the numbers game, and we can't rely on getting 1 or 2 bites, like sometimes how those bigger baits are. It's everyone says, oh, if I catch 20 pounds, I'm just going to go through a big bait all day. But you know how hard it is to just go out there and catch 20 pounds? It takes all day most of the time.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. I mean,
sometimes
most of the time it does.
Time in a day. Yeah,
Right.
No.
Sometimes there's not enough time in a day.
No, and like the biggest benefit of throwing like a 10-inch glide, we keep telling people that, they've seen us do it and they know that that's not the first thing we would do. We enjoy it. We've had our success with it. We're doing it several years. Like, we have an understanding of what we're doing with it, but we just don't live and die by it. But the best thing about it is they're as good as a fish finder as they are a fish catcher. There's been plenty of days to go out. We'll throw the depths 250. That's a big glide. It's 10-inch and it's beefy. I don't know, we probably caught fish on 5% of the days that we've thrown it, but the number of fish we've pulled out of cover that we never would have known were there, that is where its real value comes from. And you don't have to throw it that long to get those fish to come out just to take a quick peek at what the hell you're throwing. And that out of everything we've thrown so far, the depths has been the absolute best at calling out fish. I don't know why. And it doesn't seem to matter what the color is, just the profile and the action on that damn bait. It just calls out fish like nothing else I've seen. It's ridiculous. Oh, so is my bull glide. That's got a sexy pattern on it.
It's rubber.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. All right.
The fish know.
You know.
All right, let's rifle through a couple more here, and then we'll cut you loose. Carl, actually, I'm really curious about your input on this. In your opinion, with the advancement of blank sensitivity in the past 2 years, are we splitting hairs once we cross the $200 threshold?
Yes and no. The higher end rods, there's a reason they're higher end. The companies aren't out there to try to rip you off or anything like that. There's a reason why that high end rod costs so much more. Usually it comes down to what goes into the guides and the reel seat and things like that make it that much more expensive on those higher end rods. But going back to the blanks have gotten so good on the more middle tier rods. So I'm going to consider those $100 to $200. So I think for most anglers, that's your best bet to go with a $100 to $200 rod nowadays, especially like if you haven't bought rods in 10 years, you'll be blown away. If the rods you used years ago cost you $300-$400, and then you go pick up a $150 rod right now, because it's going to feel better than that $300-$400 one that you picked up 10 years ago and bought.
Dude, even a
for that.
5-year difference has been significant.
So, I personally, for the majority of the rods that I use, are I think $159.99 retail. They're the Arc Invoker Pros. They're now switching to be the Arc Invoker Tour. That's probably about 70% of the rods in my boat. Basically anything moving baits, I throw on those. When it comes to dragging or getting a little bit more sensitivity, I go with a little bit higher end rod. And that's because the higher end allows me to go cork. I think cork is a lot more sensitive, in my opinion, than the EVA foam type style grips. Like that's what's on the $159 rod. So I like casting stuff on those foam grips. And then when it comes to needing something for sensitivity, I think the retail price of the one that I throw is like $249.99. It's the Invoker Limited, which is actually on sale. Buy one, I think get the second one half off right now. Not actually just trying to like plug that in there. It just so happened to be.
No, by all means, dude,
good.
throw it in there.
You did. Guys, buy some.
I do believe they were running a sale on Arc right now for those. But that's like how I break it down. There's definitely benefits of those higher end rods. No doubt about that. And it just comes down to personal preference in the end. But what I tell a lot of guys, there are some incredible, $100, $150 rods out there now, especially if you're looking to get a bunch of new ones. It's not cheap. We all know it's not cheap. So I don't blame someone who's, trying to save a little bit of money. If they need to buy 10 rods to, essentially fill out all their bait casters in their boat, definitely go for those, $100 or $150 models, because there are some good ones out there. Definitely try to get them in your hands if, that opportunity is available for sure.
I'm going to wholeheartedly agree with you on all of that. Mm-hmm. We've run the gambit on rods between what we spent our money on and what sponsorship changes we've had ourselves over the last few years. And, especially being with Lose, we ran the gambit of everything that they had to offer. Now we're Douglas.
Everything.
Yeah, literally every model they had, we tried it. But that was good because, it gave us the opportunity to really, when people asked a question, we could answer it because we personally used it. And now with Douglas, a little bit more stripped down version, but they have two very clearly different classes of rods. Two in their LRS, which are like $180, and then their X Matrix, which are like $330 to $360. And once you're, it's at a certain point, totally worth the money. Like it is a clear difference in capability and overall weight is the big thing. Especially for us coming back to the swim bait topic too. You get over that $200 threshold and you're throwing a big rod, big weight on it. Like it makes all the difference in the world between, like some of the last rods we had. And those Loose Super Duties weren't really that bad.
No, they're good.
But then now going to the X Matrix rods and chucking, 10-inch glides on that all
like,
day, and it's like
Oh, this
world
is so
of a
nice.
difference. So, but
Yeah.
no, I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate enough to use, pretty much I have used every model that Arc makes of their rods. So I've seen, the lowest end one to the highest end ones, and I could tell you each one is better than the next one. Like it literally goes up in order of price point, but there's certain little things in each one that make it cost more and whatnot, but they are truly better. The higher you get up, it just depends on what your style of fishing is and what you're looking to get out of those rods. Like I would never tell someone they need a $350 rod. There
Yeah.
are definitely there are the perks of having a $350 rod. Like for when I smallmouth fish, those bites you sometimes don't even feel. If you've ever
Oh yeah.
dead fished for smallmouth and seen a smallmouth on a bed and seen how fast they eat it and spit the bait, if you don't have enough sensitive rod, you miss bites all the time. It's the same thing when you're not fishing for bed fishing smallmouth. They bite it really fast sometimes. So I always try to have the most sensitive rod I can when I am smallmouth fishing. But again, if you're just looking to do it for fun, you don't necessarily need the highest end because there's plenty of good options out there in that $150 to $200 range.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, how many times have you even seen it when you're bed fishing for smallies that you could literally be fishing a bed that's only 3 feet down, and before that bait can even hit the bottom, that fish has already come up, smoked it, and spit it in like the blink of an eye, and you don't feel it. Now imagine like that same thing still happens with smallmouth throughout the year, but now trying to feel that when it's already down 20, 30 feet, when they're coming up to smoke it and they spit it, and you have no idea it happened. Like if you don't have the right setup, you'll never know. You'll absolutely never know. But with premium setup, it becomes a little bit more calm. You start to feel that.
Yep. And it's not only the rods, line, certain styles of braid play a big role if you are throwing braid, but fluorocarbon as well. All those play a big role in like your sensitivity factor and different styles of braid. There's so many different braids in the market now, and it's not just that everyone's trying to like mock each other and they're just trying to have like a billion options. They're actually out there because each braid has like, a sole purpose per se, but it might vary from person to person.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm just thinking about this. I'm just curious about your own personal opinion. For drop shot, what do you throw for a rod? Length and power. I'm just curious.
I am 6'10", medium light.
Really?
Yep.
See, that's why I asked, because out of like all the techniques and what people's rod preference is for whatever the technique is, I find drop shot to be the most polarizing, and this is a perfect example of it. Because, and not in a bad way, again, it's just all down to personal preference. And for drop shot, I really don't think you can go wrong. And you're way, way, way shorter than I ever would have thought. Where, like, I've always thrown a 7.2, but now one of my rods I picked up from Douglas is the X Matrix DXC 763 XF. So it's a 7'6" medium extra fast. And my other rod, it was a custom built rod for my friend. It's 7.2. And I've loved that, but then earlier this year, I tried on that 7.6. I'm like, you know what? I kind of really like that longer rod. It just, when you're just going to really kind of load up on light line, it just feels good.
Deeper water, it helps.
Yeah, just kind of.
I feel like it helps in deeper water to set the hook with a longer rod on drop shot.
Yeah.
So like my kind of opinion on that is I try to never catch a drop shot fish at more than 60 feet out from the boat if I don't have to. So rod size shouldn't matter for me. Now, I catch plenty of fish out farther, but if I could catch them closer to the boat, I'm gonna, because my hookup ratio is gonna be better. Get them a little bit closer to the boat, a little quicker. You don't have to worry about, something going wrong, things like that. The biggest thing for me, I like the short one for straight down. Any time I had a bigger rod, if you're trying to like let the line down like this, and because you're just dropping it,
standing
you're
back
like
at the console.
you're trying to like twirl it out, and the last thing I need is my tip touching the water, the braid floating up and grabbing the tip, and I go to set the hook on the fish that's already on there, and I break the first 3 inches of the rod off because it was 7.6. So that was why I am strict with going with a short rod, and I've probably kept between a 6'9" and a 6'10" for the last 8 to 10 years.
Nice. You know what? I might pick up a shorter rod just to try it this year.
Yeah.
Just for shits and
Now,
giggles.
when you
I'm curious.
get like those scoping fish farther out, you're definitely better suited with a little bit bigger of a rod for sure. For like like you said, hook set purposes,
Yeah.
and whatnot, and just fighting those fish. But I've always tried to keep it short when it came to close quarters.
I like it. All right, last question, and then we'll call it quits here because I didn't realize it's already 9:40, so this is going on a lot longer than you usually have. But this has been good. Been a lot of good questions. And from Lizard Al, what's a bait or technique you think people don't try enough? That's like such a hard thing to answer.
He's got me stumped,
right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I would say like a buzzbait or like a like a topwater frog or like one of the moving ones. But it's so situational, so it's hard to like say that that's a bait that people don't try because like there's a lot of times of the year that they're not necessarily playing.
Right.
But I would say that's definitely a bait that people don't. They ignore that a lot more than they used to.
Oh, dude, 100%. We were talking about that actually only a couple weeks ago. Maybe
because I got a new one.
Yes. Can we say it? Can we? No, I don't think we can yet.
Not yet.
No, it's not public yet. Okay, never mind. But anyway, it came up in discussion the other day. We were talking about that and how, like the Whopper Plopper just kind of like annihilated the buzzbait scene. Like everybody went to a Whopper Plopper and anything else like remotely similar to that. Dude, I'll still chuck and wind a buzzbait as often as I can. And I love it. It's just, there's something
the bites
about
are
it.
insane. The bites are insane.
Every time. And, my buddy DJ, he was in the chat earlier here, 3D Fishing. He lives and dies
he
by
loves
buzzbait.
That's all he talks about.
Oh yeah, but he's
Buzzbait and
a hammer
punching.
with it. Yeah, buzzbait, punching, and frogs. Like,
Yep, that's about it.
That's what all he can do for the rest of his life. He'd die a happy man. But
Well,
yeah, I mean, he's a
you don't get to
buzzbait
see a
killer.
whole lot of punch. You don't get to see a whole lot of punching anymore. I feel like everywhere we go, there's grass being sprayed, and we don't get a chance to punch much anymore.
Yeah, dude, no joke.
Yeah. Well, good luck on Okeechobee then,
Hey, maybe
because
the
they're
buzzbait
spraying
might
like
work.
crazy.
Maybe
They
the
have been.
buzzbait will work.
Yeah, truth.
Oh, for sure.
Oh god,
Yeah.
the chemical treatment down there has been nuts. This is going on for like 3 years now, I think.
It ain't just the spraying either. It's them dumping it into the sugarcane fields, and then they dump it right back in the lake. Don't filter nothing.
Yeah. Well, there was a lake down there not too far. Well, not too far from Orlando.
Headwaters.
No, I don't think it's a headwaters. It's a lake specifically. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like ruined for a long time until only like 5 or 10 years ago. It kind of like became quote unquote accessible again because of all the farmland surrounding it. Everything from what they're using for basically the cows and some of the other just general farmland around there, like all the nitrates and everything dumping into the lake just like killed it. And until they kind of regulated how much and what the farmers could use that were all surrounding the lake, it needed a long time to recover from that. For the life of me, I can't remember the name of it, but I know it's down there near Orlando.
I don't know.
Oh, well, I can't. Yeah, but no, yeah.
There's
to
a
your
bunch of
point,
them.
it's that runoff too. That even here at home at Squam Lake, I know a lot of guys were complaining about that going back 5-6 years ago. Now the lake changed dramatically because there was a lot of new homes that were going in, or people that had come in, and bigger money coming in, buying small properties, expanding it, putting in these nice big yards, and everybody's putting in, every lawn treatment chemical you can think of under the sun on there. And it all started running off in the lake, and there was a lot of vegetation that had been there for like ever that all of a sudden just disappeared one year. And that was the only thing everybody could point to, that like all these these houses on the lakes that never had these nice lawns, the same year that everybody get these giant, beautiful lawns, all this vegetation that had been there forever is now gone. It just changed the way the lake fished. And it took a couple of years for guys to kind of figure that out and get back on the
We're killing the lake.
path with that.
Whoops.
Yeah. And then you got guys in Vermont that just dump shit in the lake anyway.
Yeah, just because they feel like it's going to help the lake.
Yeah, jackasses. Hey, that guy went to jail, though, so that's a good thing.
FDA hated him.
Gordon said he thinks it was Garcia down in Florida. You might be right.
Maybe. I fished down the Garcia last year.
Yeah? How was it?
Caught a bunch of little ones. No really big ones.
There you go.
Yeah. I heard there's some big ones in there. It's just you catch a lot of little ones.
Yeah,
We know a couple places like that up here.
I actually
just a few.
I fished. I had my now fiance girlfriend she was my girlfriend at the time. She was with me, and she was, kicking back, relaxing, doesn't want to do a whole lot of fishing. She wanted to see if I could find the fish first, and then when I started catching some, then she would fish, That's
Yep.
how it goes. So I caught maybe 15. I don't think one was over 2 pounds, and she goes, "I'm going to start fishing." And I'm like, all right, you started wanting to fish when we got in like the tightest areas. Like there's not much you can do other than like, I think I was just like pitching a worm around. And I was like, she's going to get hung or this and that. And I'm like, I'll just give her a swim jig toss off the back of the boat. First cast, she had a 5-pounder on.
That's just how it goes.
I fished the next 6 hours of that day, and I don't think I caught one over 2 pounds.
Jeez. Good for her.
I'm curious.
So
After she did that?
that was my Garcia experience.
I'm curious, as all wives and your soon-to-be wife are really good at things like this, how often does she bring that up to you?
Sorry, that's
It's
from
so
Michelle.
weird how it works. She doesn't fish a ton, but the couple times that she comes out, it's how it always goes. It's like, as soon as you give her a rod, boom, she catches one, and you're happy because it's like, thank God. I thought it was gonna be a lot harder for her to actually catch one, and it's like the fish came with their mouths open to her casting,
Right.
so it works out good for me. Other than us trying to fish for 3-4 hours and her not having a bite and absolutely going crazy, so it works out in my favor when it happens like that. But it just oddly so happens to be every single time she's been out, it's like bam, instantly.
Right? Fish whisperer.
Maybe she should be on the elites.
Maybe. She has a problem touching them though.
John's going to be out there in a tournament. I just need that one kicker. Just going to see him dress up like his wife. Oh, I'll just cast this out. Oh. And try and trick the fish.
Yeah, you should totally wear a wig one day. Yeah. Please, for me.
If that'll get me on camera, sure, why not?
All right, good.
What color hair?
He's kind of a brunette man, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or jet black.
Yeah, what color is your hair? Is brown? Yeah, just do the same color as yours so it fools people.
Dude, I would look scary with jet black.
Do it. Did you say jet black?
I did.
Leave me alone.
Sorry, you have a type. I'm not wrong.
You're not.
All right. Well, tell you what, it's coming up on close to 10 o'clock here. Dude, you've been awesome for the show. Thank you very much for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. For everybody that's still here, before you take off, listen to John. He's going to tell you everything about his social media. You can give him a follow on everything. John, the floor is yours. Have at it.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on. Anyone that's watched or watching, you can follow me on any of my social media pages. It's Jonathan Kelley Fishing. I have Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and then also my website is JTK Fishing. So you can find me on any of those platforms. Get in touch with me if you do have any questions about anything we talked about, especially like we go back to the rods. If you really are looking for rods and you have questions on specific ones, I'd be happy to answer and talk to you guys about, the different things that we use as anglers and kind of help in any way that I possibly can. So be sure to check it out and give a holler anytime.
Nice, man. Well, best of luck when you go out this year. And if you're interested, love to have you back on the show at some point here during the season. Little mid-season touch base, see how everything's going. And it's obviously we can see how it's going, watch the standings. But, get you in here,
Hopefully
talk
pretty
about
good.
everything. Yeah, dude, absolutely.
We watch you live at work, so you got that big TV there.
All right. Well, I'm down for that. Hopefully I'll be on there and you guys are watching while you're rigging the boat.
We usually do.
Yeah, he sends me a picture. He's like, this is what I love about working here. And they have like a 55-inch TV. They just roll around
It's
and
like
stand.
65-ish, 70.
All right, whatever. It's a giant
Yeah.
fucking TV. They roll around, and anytime there's a live event for bass, they have that playing. They just roll around the garage while they're working on boats. I'm like, aw.
It's
It's
smart.
cool.
It's smart. Why would you not?
Yeah.
You don't even need to watch it sometimes. You just need to listen. Because then when something important happens, then you start watching. You just get glued. So you stop doing what you're doing.
Yeah, my
Just don't
head's
watch
usually
TV.
stuck in the bilge, so
Yeah. Dude, one of the best benefits about being able to work from home on Fridays is I'll do that during all the elite lives is because I have two computers in the back. One's my kids, and I repurpose that for work, and then I have my personal PC the other side, and I'll put it on. And while I'm working, I can listen to it. And if I hear something really excited, I'll just look over, like, oh yeah, cool, okay, back to work.
Yeah, mine kind of goes like this. Cool.
Back into the village with you. All right, everybody's still here. Thank you again. If you haven't done so yet, please leave a like on the stream, whether you're watching here on YouTube or on Facebook. Andrew, do your thing. Do you remember who's on next week? Ben Nowak.
I knew it. I was going to say bad. But anyway, Jonathan, thanks again for coming on, and good seeing you. We will see you guys next week, like every week, at Wednesday, 8 p.m. at youtube.com/ReelNorthernBass. See you later.
Good job.
I did.
Have a good night, everybody.